Oh, hi folks. Thought I'd do a brief video before I disappear to Denmark. Happy days. It's going to be foggy in the morning. I hope my flight's not cancelled. Anyway, there are times in our life, I suppose, for everybody, nobody escapes this one, where we think, oh hell, something tragic happens in our lives, something unfortunate, something painful, something we wish wasn't happening happens to us. None of us escape this eventuality that will occur to human beings. Happens to us all. Take solace. And it is how we, what makes a huge difference is how we learn to deal with the situation as it's happening, as it's going to happen, as it's happening, and post-trauma, if you like. That makes all the difference. And there's one little phrase that I always recall that my father told me, and your father may have already said that to you too. I'll just make an adjustment, sorry. And no matter, it's like a song with James Taylor, really. Winter, summer, fall, all you got to do is call and I'll be there. Well, sometimes they're not there. You're on your own. And it is, I would say for many of us, it's character forming. You got to feel the pain to get the gain, as they say in the American Marine Academy. I'd rather not have the pain, and I'm not overly excited about the gain. It's not a fair trade sometimes. Without being too flippant about it though, how do we deal with things that are just, we feel at the time are happening and they become untenable? They're like, oh my God, this couldn't get any worse. Very often pain is like that. Embarrassing situations are like this. I mean, I needn't go through the list. I'm sure that you've had such things happen to you in life. You just want the world to open up and swallow you. And you think it's going to take me an age to get over this. I've been thinking about it for ages, and guess what? It's happened. Well, yeah, chances are you've attracted it into your life, or you've caused it, you naughty person. How do you then get over it? Is there an easy way of getting over these things? Well, they do say that time is a great healer, and the more distance you can put between you and the event actually happening in history, the better. And it never seems too bad tomorrow or the next day or a week later, does it? But at that time, it can be hell on earth. So how do we deal with this? Well, my simple phrase, when I'm dealing either within it as it's happening to me, or when I'm having to do it and I really don't want to do it, depending what it is, doesn't really matter. It's just something I don't want to do. Sometimes we all have to do things we simply don't want to do or have to deal with. But it's all about being grown up, isn't it? But you know something? We're all children at heart. We all want somebody to come and take the problem away. And very often problems happen to us that we can't escape. So how do we deal with this? Well, I have a little saying, and I whistle it to myself in my mind. I say it to myself too. And I say it repeatedly. This too shall pass. That's so true. This too shall pass. No matter what it is, this too shall pass. If you want proof of that, of course, not that you would need it really, but it's almost Schadenfreudig to want to see other people suffer just as you're suffering. To check out, see how they got over it. It could be an illness, short-term, long-term, medium-term. It could be quite a shock to your system, your whole world's collapsed. There's nothing more comforting than checking out other people to show that, well, maybe there is a fair thing in life, maybe bad things happen to good people. And sadly, the obverse to that, of course, is that good things happen to bad people. Life's just a bitch. And sometimes people marry them. Yeah, this too shall pass. There used to be I'm not sure if it's a Jewish saying, not that I'm Jewish, but I do like some of their sayings. But there's never any problem so big in life that it cannot be run away from. And that tickles me pink. It really does, because that's true too. It depends how mobile you are, like Will-o'-the-Wisp. And especially if you're no fixed abode, oh how fun that can be. Become a man of mystery. But it's very difficult, isn't it, to become a man or woman of mystery, because everyone's got to be somewhere somehow. From the moment you're born, they slap you with a birth certificate and a national insurance number in the UK anyway, and you become a little tax-paying unit, don't you, belonging to the government. They will want to know all about you, my old girl, my old son. Where you are, what you're up to, why haven't you got a job, why aren't you contributing, no you can't, you scrounging bastard, yada yada yada. There's no free ticket through this world, sadly. We can't move into the woods and build a log cabin and get ourselves a bow and arrow and go shooting our food, and oh, if only, don't you think? But to the point, sometimes we think the problems we have are insurmountable. Some people are so overwhelmed by them that they resort to suicide as their sole means of escape, which is a real tragedy. Because in those situations, quite rightly, providing it's not health related, no problems are impossible to run away from. At least you've got a fighting chance to get away, if you can. But most problems that we face are transient. And if you want proof of that, look at old history. Look at the history of even as nearby as the 60s, 50s, 60s, maybe, yeah, the 60s, when you look at the troubles in Vietnam and the soldiers going to Vietnam. It never seems like it was ever going to finish, did it? Indeed, wars are happening constantly. They've been happening since the Roman times, continuously on this world. They shall not pass. They just change location and severity, don't they, and different victims. And that's rather sad. They are best avoided, and sometimes certain countries have conscription, and sometimes bombs are dropped on you from a great height from an enemy that you wouldn't even know if you walked past them in the street. Another country drops bombs on your country, straight out the blue, literally. There's no escaping that. But again, this too shall pass, if you survive it. And life is about survival. From second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, it's a survival game. But look at the old troubles that used to happen in the streets, street riots. And I used to think the same about winter. I'm one of these people that gets terribly pissed off. I wouldn't say depressed. During winter, I've got this seasonal, I think they call it SADS, I can't remember the actual term, but I cannot abide winter. I think historically in my previous lives I was a bear. I used to go to sleep and hibernate, if only. And given the option, I would still do that. Because I'm a wimp. I don't like going out in the cold. I don't like inclement weather particularly. I certainly hate being cold. And I dislike very much rain, cold, wind, sleet and snow. It's just not my bag. Living in California has its benefits, I suppose, if you can tolerate the hurricanes and things. But no. So if ever you're faced with something that you're finding untenable, whether it be people, medical conditions, situations, debts, debt problems, yada, 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 just think this too shall pass. And it is a way, it's quite magical saying it to yourself, because that gives you reassurance, because there's one thing is on this God's green earth, you are absolutely talking the truth, because tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Sooner or later, you see, attention will be moved away from you and your problems onto somebody else, thank Christ. Pass the buck, why not? Fair's fair, we have to share. But people sometimes do drastic steps. Certain continuous problems, what they perceive as continuous, drives them into drug addiction, so they at least escape that way, or they get into alcoholism. They find the answer in a bottle or a box of pills, and it's a temporary fix. There's no other way about it, but sometimes life throws you a curveball, as the Yanks say. Yeah, that's a fact for all of us. None of us can escape this, and we have to take responsibility sometimes for our own actions, much as I hate doing that on occasions. But no, my father used to say to me, you know, this too shall pass, and then flippantly say, there's certain problems in life that simply you can run away from, and there are certain things you have to face. Face up, fess up, be a man, stand your ground. Well, that's all very well for him. He's not having the problems I'm having. I know, but he's had his problems. There isn't a human being that's born, gone through life and died, and hasn't had a group of problems to have to deal with that they wish they could have run away from. And this is what we try to say to our children, isn't it? How to handle problems. Some problems seem insurmountable, massive, massive problems. You would think there's absolutely no resources available. There's no answer to how you... Listen, somewhere in the world, someone has had exactly the same problem as you. There are so many successful people. I knew this would happen.